To take the line from the great baseball movie, A Field of Dreams, if you build it, they will come. Canadians love their compact crossovers, and every mainstream vehicle manufacturer has at least one compact crossover in which to compete. How big is the market in Canada? 30% of all vehicles sold in this country are compact crossovers. That's 560,000 vehicles last year. Here we have two. Here, the GMC Terrain Denali. Here, the Volkswagen Tiguan Highline R-Line, the top trim levels.
Today we're going to be comparing these two crossovers on all the metrics that you would expect. What they're like to drive, what they're like to live with, but also what sort of experience they bring for the money. Both of these cars, being within $500 of each other, are really, really closely matched. But as I think we're going to find, they offer a very different experience. I think with that, it's time we just hop straight into it and hop into this GMC.
Fair enough. Who drives?
You.
So for 2025, GMC brought out a new third generation Terrain. For 2025, it was only available in the elevation trim. This is the 2026 model. For 2026, what GMC has done has reintroduced two new trim levels. The AT4, which is the more rugged outdoorsy version, and the Denali. We're in the Denali. So the top trim level, Denali is a GMC sub-brand. It means that the car is a higher level of content, a little more posh than the regular GMC models.
Ultimately though, whichever one you get, you're getting the same base engine, and right off the bat, it's a small one. This just runs a 1.5 liter 4-cylinder. It's got a turbocharger, but it doesn't make much power. It's only 175 horse. In a vehicle this size, how does that feel at the wheel?
It's adequate horsepower. For just driving around town, keeping up with traffic, it's fine. It's when you have to dip into the throttle to enter a highway. You really have to dip into the throttle. It takes a heavy foot to get it up to the necessary acceleration.
Now this Denali is an all-wheel drive model, so it has a slight advantage on the traction, and it also has an 8-speed automatic transmission, whereas the base models are front-wheel drive only and just run a CVT, which is that classic elastic band slushy trans. The 8-speed in this, I would say, feels quite alright, and it returns reasonable fuel economy. Respective economy figures are all within a liter, half a liter of what you'll get out of the Tiguan, but the Tiguan actually generally post slightly better numbers. Really though, powertrain should not be your concern in something like this, because it's not a vehicle that you're meant to drive in any particular hurry. Instead, this is supposed to be a commuter and a bit of a cruiser at that. With that in mind, and especially in this top Denali trim, GM has started to layer on some of the more premium techs, although not quite what we're going to see later in the Tiguan. Coming standard now, we've got heated steering wheel and heated seats at all 4 outboard positions. We've also got a really big screen here, a massive 15-incher. It's enormous and actually matches what we've got there in the higher trim Tiguan. But I don't think, Brian, you're particularly keen on the infotainment in this, are you?
No, it's a matter of graphics. You're right, the screen is massive. I think I've had TVs smaller than this 15-inch screen. But the navigation mode, while clear and crisp, the font is too small. It's too big a field. And when you drill in, it doesn't bring out the streets as clearly as in the Tiguan. The Tiguan has a simpler navigation screen, but it's clearer and more precise.
If you prefer to use Apple CarPlay or Android Auto though, these non-EV GMs still support those, and it is wireless connection. And if you're using Google Maps in CarPlay, for instance, you do now get those directions presented through the central cluster as well, which is a nice step forward.
Earlier you mentioned about this being the all-wheel drive model. True, but it is a part-time all-wheel drive system. You actually have to activate it. Otherwise, it's a front-wheel drive model. Your point about it being a commuter car, I think that's being a little unfair. This is actually a very comfortable, very smooth vehicle to drive. I love the seats, very comfortable. This is a long-distance cruiser. And the fact that it's just a 2-row, 5-seater, there's plenty of room in the back seat for full-size adults. I have no problem sitting in the back seat. I'm 6'1", lots of leg room, lots of headroom.
Okay, spacious, yes, but I find this a little unpleasant across longer distances. That's mainly because even though the Denali gets what GM calls its smart frequency upgraded dampers, it still suffers from what I feel is a classic GM tendency to underdamp the cars. Damping is what keeps the springs from just boing when you go over a bump. And in General Motors crossovers, for whatever reason, they just never seem to put all that much of them in them. That means that when you go over bumps, you'll feel a bit of a wobble wobble that continues for a while after you've hit it. And I find in this case, especially over sharp bumps on the highway, that my head ends up jogging back and forth quite a bit. That isn't quite the case in the Tiguan, which you find rides a little too firm. But I think that it's just a little bit too mushy, and not just because I wish it were a sports car or anything like that.
Okay, I see your point. I don't exactly agree. I find the ride very acceptable. This is just a higher priced GMC Terrain that's designed to come, just a little more upscale than the regular models.
Then why doesn't it ride like it?
I find it does. I am very comfortable. Well, this isn't exactly the smoothest road we're on, so it's one tar strip after another after a pothole.
But that's Canadian roads.
Yeah, it is. But well, I find, especially with the seats, I think the seats just absorb a lot of the oingy boingy motion. This is an under-engined vehicle, especially being the Denali trim. It deserves more engine. And the thing is, if you go back to the second generation Terrain, there was the availability of a 2-liter turbo engine that put out 252 horsepower with premium fuel. This version of the Terrain needs more of that. It doesn't necessarily need all 250 horsepower, but in comparison to the Tiguan, it's lacking. It's not that much slower, but you just got to use the engine more to get what you need out of it, especially if you are, say, as I said earlier, trying to merge onto a highway. I think this is, the compact crossover segment is one that a lot of young families gravitate to. And I think that cargo capacity is a big thing, especially if you have young kids, because when you have young kids, literally you carry everything with you. Overall, the Tiguan has more cargo capacity. Not a lot more, but more. If you're driving rear seats up, the Terrain has just about, I think, cubic foot and a half or so more cargo room. So, but they're both very good. You can stuff a lot of crap into both of these vehicles.
If you're planning on moving furniture, though, bear in mind that the seats in this do not fold flat, whereas in the Tiguan they do.
I like the interior. Nice thick steering wheel, nice stitched pleather. I don't know which, but whatever. It looks reasonably upscale. I'm not a fan of the fact that it's all black, and that's where I think the Tiguan really shows its stuff.
With all that, then, let's hop into the Tiguan and see how we feel about that.
Okay.
Switching into the Tiguan now, we don't have quite that same chrome external flare, but its understated exterior, I think, is contrasted with what is a far nicer cabin.
Oh, absolutely. While the Terrain had a suitably upscale interior, this is next level. I love the color combination. Real wood in a sub $50,000 vehicle. Very cool. Nice stitched leather, great graphics. This is a cut above.
VW has also done something very nice here in that they're trying to get away, it seems, from the boring old base spec feelings that we still get in something that's all black inside like that. Mm-hmm. To that end, they won't actually give you a solid color interior now. They're all going to be using these nice contrasting two-tone arrangements. You can get black and gray if you're boring, but that still brings a little bit of life to it, which is really nice to get into. But really, what we're noticing straight away underfoot here is the fact that this has a bigger engine. This, like basically everything else in the VW family, and even models like the Porsche Macan T, uses Volkswagen's EA888 engine. That's a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder. And running on regular gas, it makes 201 horse and 228 pound-feet of torque. It's a little bit noisy underfoot though, don't you think?
It's a growly engine, yeah, absolutely. And the other thing, it's 4Motion all-wheel drive is a proper all-wheel drive system. You don't have to activate it. The Terrain has a part-time system. You actually have to activate it. Supposedly, it's to aid fuel efficiency, but actually, in terms of combined fuel economy, the Tiguan is slightly better than the Terrain. It's, by my recollection, 9.2 liters per 100K combined versus 9.5. Not a great deal, but it's worth mentioning.
It is, and especially when this, well, yes, a little bit growly and technically only 25 odd horsepower more, just feels so much more proportionately powered. This feels like it should for this segment and size. It's easy to run around town, it's easy to pull onto the highway, and it's comfortable as well. I know, Brian, that you were saying you find this a little bit harsh over some bumps, but I find this really quite ideally tuned. And it doesn't have that washy rebound. Just there, if you noticed us going over a little bump, you could probably see our bodies rise a little bit and settle in, but there was no return bounce continuing on like a wave after the fact. We just steady out because the suspension is so nicely tuned in this, and that's without having to go to a top model like the Denali to get special suspension.
Okay. I'm sorry. If you want me to debate that point, maybe your butt is more finely tuned than mine is. I find the ride acceptable, but I noticed when I first got in it, in comparison with the Terrain, when it hit bumps, there was that sharp little dunk. It's a matter of preference. I like this. I like the Terrain better.
I must grant that the Terrain makes better use of noise insulation and canceling. GM has put a big emphasis on active noise cancellation, that is putting frequencies through the speaker that balance out, kind of like the noise canceling in your AirPods. Here though, we don't have quite that same isolation, and so we do hear more road noise and more engine noise as well.
I think it's worth mentioning that for 2026, Volkswagen is upping the Tiguan with a turbo version. A significantly more powerful engine, 268 horsepower from the 2-liter. I mean, that puts the Tiguan into an even higher classification, bordering on a performance crossover.
It's not exactly what I think I would look to this platform for, though. Well, yes, this one is 175 pounds lighter than the previous generation, and a lovely place to be. I feel no need to go fast in this. I don't feel like it needs any more power. And really, at this 50K-ish mark, this feels like the right way to put your money. I don't...
Yeah, I mean, do we need a turbo 2-liter engine of 268 horsepower? No. Do we want? There's going to be a certain percentage of Tiguan owners that say, yeah, give me more power. But this is perfectly acceptable because this is not a performance vehicle. This is the upscale version of the Tiguan, the Highline R-Line. That's a redundancy, isn't it? But it's perfectly acceptable.
Now, it's important to remember that this and the Denali are pretty much right on the money, neck and neck when it comes to pricing. But we have far more premium features in this. Well, no, this can't quite match the really nice screens that are in the Denali, those being OLED, where black pixels are actually turned off altogether so you don't get that light pollution. All around, we do have a slightly nicer interface. They've made it a little less annoying than it was in its early generations. We still have these frustrating capacitive swipey things at the base of the screen, but this is all around a nice system to use either in the native or in the wireless CarPlay or Android Auto. Something else that's worth noting is that this model, for the same price, has a head-up display, whereas the GMC does not. This also has a very nice audio setup. Whereas the Terrain Denali only gets 6-speaker audio, this comes standard with 7, and if you upgrade, as we have here to the Harman Kardon, you get 700-watt 12-speaker sound. It's nothing amazing, this is still a $50,000 car, but it's far nicer and far more immersive. It also has a better spatial sense to it than what you'll get out of that GMC. And then we get to the seat massagers. I think altogether that this thing, especially with these massagers going for the same price as the Denali, which doesn't have them, is getting in on Genesis GV70 territory. This is a very nice car to be in, and honestly, for significantly less money than the Genesis, while not quite as nice, while not quite as smooth in some realms, I think is all around a more appealing value for a premium buy than that previous incumbent. The Genesis GV70 is an excellent premium crossover. The fact that this narrows that gap so closely and puts it so far beyond that Denali, I think speaks volumes to what VW has accomplished in this new generation Tiguan. This is a very impressive product.
Yeah, as nice as the Denali is, this thing just ticks so many more boxes. And overall, you're right. I mean, the same price, both hovering around the $48,000 mark. The Terrain is good value, but this is really great value.
Post-Dieselgate, VW definitely went through it with some quality and cost-cutting issues, but they've really seemed to turn things around now. Through all of that, then, the new generation GMC Terrain is a fine product, but the excellence of this here VW Tiguan, also in its new generation, really lays bare where GM has sort of taken some shortcuts there. Coming in at the same price, this just feels a class beyond this, and indeed is edging in on some further premium models. It's a delight of a compact crossover, and while it's not necessarily the most exciting class of vehicle, this is absolutely something that I would be delighted to spend my morning commutes in. For Driving.ca, I'm Al Alder.
For Driving.ca, I'm Brian Harper.
For more crossover news, reviews, tests, previews, specs, and all the rest, be sure to follow us online on Driving.ca.